Creepy occurrences at the playground. I live down the block from a school playground, and I usually go out late at night to have a cigarette while on the phone with someone so I feel safer. My parents don't know I smoke, and I like to keep it that way. The park and the school take up an entire block, and the streets surrounding it are all residential, so there are 4 main entrances to the park, and then one little one by the handball courts. If you're looking down at it from the sky, it would have this kind of layout: school, 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 basketball courts, enclosed kiddie playground, baseball field, benches, and then main playground. So, this one night, I decided to walk an extra block and came in through the entrance with the enclosed kiddie playground. There's this really tall gate you have to go through to get into, and to close it, you have to push it with a lot of force, twist the metal rod on the side, and have the rod slide into the hole in the cement. When I went into the playground, the gate was wide open. There was no one in the park but me, and it was fairly late, so no one was around walking. I was talking to one of my friends on the phone with one earbud in, and the other out, so I could hear what was going on in my surroundings. While on the phone, I was sitting with my back to the gate. I was there for maybe 20 minutes when I decided to leave. When I turned around, the gate was completely shut, and even the metal rod had been turned and put into place. That was my only way out, and I was panicking a bit because I didn't understand how the gate worked, and I thought I was trapped. I looked frantically around, but no one was around. I figured out how to open the gate, and when I pushed it, I had to use the majority of my upper body strength to push it, and to top it off, it made this horrid creaking sound. It wasn't windy that night, and even if someone closed it behind me, I would have heard them do it. I don't really know how it closed. I just know I walked in with it wide open, and when I turned to leave, it was completely shut. I go to this park regularly, and I started taking notice of the gate. I would sit as far away from the kiddie playground as possible, and kind of pay no mind to it. But I was there again tonight telling my friend what had happened. I started telling him because I noticed the gate was wide open. We were talking for a while, and we had gone off the subject of the gate, and I can't remember last minute what I told him. I turned to look at the gate, and it was completely closed again. I don't think I'll be going to this park at night anymore. Group of teenagers dissolved as we got closer. A minute ago, my sister asked me if I remembered something really strange that happened 10 years ago. It was about 3 a.m. in 2004, and I was 11 years old or so. My cousin was 12. My sister was about 16 and her ex was 18. We live in Singapore where it's really safe at night, and we were taking a long walk to have a smoke because we were bad kids and didn't want our parents to know. As we were walking, we saw a playground with multi-levels that you can climb on and sit on top, and we initially wanted to hang out on it, but then saw a group of maybe 3 or 4 adult-looking people or teenagers already hanging out on said playground. We can hear chatter too. We can see them standing on it, and we were about 50 or 40 meters away. We then decided to proceed to another spot to chill, and so we continued walking past the playground. But as we were approaching about 5 meters away from it, the people that we just saw disappeared into thin air. They didn't just disappear. It was slow and gradual dissolving, and then became completely silent too. The sounds of chatter were gone. We went around the playground and found nothing but trash all over and a cat. It wasn't spooky, yet very strange, and it didn't make any sense. Can't be a mirage either. All of us saw it. I was fully expecting to see people when we walked by it, but there was nothing. They seemed very human to us before, nothing spooky about them. Like everyday teenagers smoking and drinking and laughing late in the night. Were they abducted by aliens? Erased from this earth? or from another dimension. It was a little more than 10 years ago, though. The playground itself doesn't look that creepy at all. It's been renovated. The ghost from second grade. I was around 6 or 7 years old. It was recess, and my second grade friends and I would play on this really big grassy hill that overlooked the playground on one side. The other side was a big residential area that was under construction. We would sit on top of this hill and play Polly Pockets, watching people on the playground. Sometimes we would see older kids. We were at kindergarten to grade 8 school, walking towards a residential area where they would subsequently hop the tall wooden fence. We thought they were just going home, but more than likely they were using that spot to do drugs or have sex, without the playground monitor seeing them. One day in particular, my friends and I intently watched this one kid walking by himself towards the wooden fence. He had a purple hoodie, and the hood was pulled over his head, which was weird because it was springtime, and it was pretty hot outside where we were. We wanted to see if he was going to hop the fence, so we waited. He approached the fence. His body turned completely white, and he walked straight through it. He was an apparition, a complete textbook ghost, at 1 p.m. in broad daylight. Naturally, we screamed. We somehow convinced each other that we didn't need to tell the playground monitor. We probably decided that she wouldn't believe us anyways. This happened on multiple occasions. We saw a purple hoodie man every day during recess at exactly 1 p.m. Every time he turned pure white and completely slipped through the fence without even opening it. Soon, the school year ended and I ended up switching districts, so I couldn't do 3rd grade at that school. As I was typing this, my curiosity started to gnaw, so I found a 2nd grade playground friend on my Facebook. We're both 19 and in college now. We haven't seen each other in over a decade. I messaged her and reminded her who I was, and I asked her if she remembered anything strange from our hill during 2nd grade 1 p.m. recess. Without missing a beat, she says, "Oh, the purple ghost kid, yeah. I totally remember." No one believes me and I cannot explain it. Should I get in touch with other friends? This isn't my only paranormal experience either. I can post about separate instances with different ghosts if anyone is curious. I might just do it anyways. My experiences as a child. All this happened over the course of a couple of years, starting 19 years ago. That makes me feel really old saying that. From time to time, I'll bring it up to my mother, and we'll talk about it briefly, and then she gets uncomfortable and cuts the discussion short. I found the sub and figured it would be nice to get your thoughts on all of this. Also, I'm typing this on a phone, so bear with me on any typos, and sorry about the length. I will not be changing the location of where these events took place. I was 5 years old, living in an apartment complex called Erie Street Apartments in Three Rivers, Michigan. My parents and I lived in a unit on the 2nd floor of the very first building of the complex, right next to the complex entrance. I was at the time an only child. I made friends with a little girl that lived in a different building, which was right next to the complex playground. She lived on the 1st floor of her building, and I remember how jealous I was that she had the bigger bedroom of the 3-bedroom apartment, and that directly outside of her bedroom window was the playground. I went over to her place a few times to play. She was my age, and she had a little brother. Her mom was a single mother that lived in the bedroom between both children's rooms. I found it odd that the little girl got the much larger master bedroom. Her mom's room was much smaller. I didn't like her mom. She made me really uncomfortable to be around. This was one of the reasons I pushed to play outside more than at her place. The mother was just weird to me. Her bedroom was very dark from the glimpses I would see of it. She hung a very large blanket over a window, and virtually no natural light could enter. What I found even more odd was, despite her clear efforts to keep the room dark, she always had a bunch of candles lit and would just lay in bed all the time. Eventually, the little girl moved away, and the apartment became vacant. At the same time, my mother became pregnant with my little sister. It seemed like a good match. Our current unit at the time was only a 2-bedroom and we needed a 3, so, after a waiting period, the complex manager transferred us to the 3-bedroom unit that the little girl lived in. I didn't have the same luck as the little girl. My parents got the master bedroom, and I got the bedroom that the mother used to occupy. When moving in, I noticed that upon closing the bedroom door, there was a weird drawing drawn in red lipstick. It turned out to be an upside-down pentagram. I just didn't know what it was at the time. My mother disgustingly washed it away and gave me some child-friendly, watered-down version of what it was. I basically walked away with still no clue what it was. Time goes on, and eventually my sister is born, who I love so much. It seemed a few months went on, and that's when the weird shit started happening. I would feel so uneasy being in the room, even during the daytime. As cliche as it might sound, I always felt like I was being watched, and it was very uncomfortable. I told my parents, and they wrote it off. My father complained I had an overactive imagination and told me to stop playing scary video games. At night, the feeling was a lot worse. I wouldn't get any sleep and always felt like something inhuman was inside my closet watching me. When I did sleep, I had horrifying nightmares of demons trying to possess me. I was barely religious, so if it somehow was my imagination, which I don't think it was, I have no idea why I would have such detailed and disturbing dreams that were so specific. Over time, I started hearing voices from the closet as well, just faint, but low-key mumbles. I never understood what was being said, if it was even words. Like that even makes sense, right? I would constantly go to my parents' room crying, telling them what had just happened. My mom's friend was very religious, and she suggested coming over and blessing the room, which my parents did with her several times. Things would settle down for a while, but then kick back up. It was awful. One night, I woke up from a nightmare and had what I believe was sleep paralysis. It was terrifying. I was able to eventually fall back asleep. I just don't know for how long. I ended up waking up with the thought in my head, it was time to go outside and play. I rushed out to the door, and as soon as I was outside of our unit building, I suddenly woke up. It was really late outside. I tried to go back inside our unit, but the door was locked. Our unit has a lock on the handle that allowed you to open the door when it was locked. I cried and banged on the door and tried to knock on neighbors' doors, but everyone was asleep. Eventually, my mom heard me and let me in. It was a very weird case of sleepwalking. I woke up in my playground, outside. It was weird though, because as I was going outside, I felt fully aware, But stepping outside into the night, I suddenly felt awake. I don't really know how to describe it any better, unfortunately. The scariest thing to happen was the knocking. I would jolt awake in the middle of the night and sit up in bed for a while. Then there would be a banging on my bedroom window. This was a rare event, but scared the crap out of me. It was such a loud banging that I felt like the glass could break. My father would rush in and look out the window and go outside, and nobody was around. I remember one particular time that noticeably shook up my father. The usual heavy banging on the window in the winter. Heavy snow outside with no footprints. This somewhat proved to some degree it wasn't just neighborhood kids trying to scare me. It was very unreal. Terrifying. Eventually, time passes, and my mother decides She wants to switch bedrooms. She was gonna switch my room with my sister's to see if I still had those same problems. My sister was so young, she didn't know about any of the issues at all. My life became a lot easier. No more dreadful feelings, and I slept great. My sister, however, started acting terrified at night and would wake up screaming like something had hurt her. My mom stayed in the bedroom with her a few times. I overheard her telling my father she felt like they were being watched and felt that the room was heavy. It wasn't much longer and we moved to a different city. The problems with my sister stopped when we moved, and I can report I haven't had any issues to date. I'm very happy with a beautiful 1-year-old baby girl. My sister doesn't even remember any of that old apartment. Still, from time to time, I look back at all of that, such as tonight, and really what the fuck about it.